everyone. Oh,
Got it.
I have to hit continue. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I am really pleased to have Natalie Wester with us this evening. Natalie is from Cleveland, as you heard, and she's a great example of an amazing first-time solo traveler, which is it's just wonderful to have someone that is adventurous and a first-timer. It's just incredible. So Natalie dove into the deep end when it came to solo travel and embarked on a 70-day around the world solo journey. So now she's a solo traveler and a blogger, and she inspires women over 50 with unfiltered stories of personal transformation on her blog. And the blog is called The Hot Goddess, which is great.
And the hot has to do with the hot flashes of midlife. It's not a sex blog. So you may find a few stories about that, but that's not what the name is about. It's those flashes. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So welcome, Natalie.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. So, I kept the intro very short because we're going to get to know you in the interview process. So we'll just, we'll jump in here. And before we even get to your trip, I want to know, have you always been a traveler? Is travel been part of your life, or is this something you came to later?
I say when I was 8 years old, I took my first kind of solo. I got on an airplane in 1968 by myself to go to Chicago and was met by a family friend. So just that little short Cleveland, Chicago flight in a dress that I had for Easter, because that was a big deal. So we did that. And as a family, my dad would try and take us to different places. We went to the World Expo in Montreal, and he was a very frugal man. And I took that learning to be able to do this trip. So you never buy breakfast, you never buy lunch, and he would order an entree and 4 plates. And that's how so I learned to buy one thing and then split it up, and I always carry a roll of Ziploc bags, and then I can spread my food out. So that travel background, I guess, did come into play, but never, Janice, never solo, never completely solo.
So you traveled with friends and
yes, and partners, boyfriends, whatever, my honeymoon, but not, and it had been to Europe, Canada, Mexico, but always with someone else. They really did most of the planning, really. And if there were any lizards or anything, that was their job to capture them and get them out of the room. So there was it wasn't all on me. So this was my first time.
Wow, it's incredible. So give us a little bit of context of how this trip came about. What inspired you, or what gave you the notion, right, that you were going to do this?
Yes. So I think with any big things, usually the catalyst is often some kind of a loss. My father died, and a long-term relationship with the travel partner ended the same year. And I decided that I needed to really reset my life and was going to retire. So I did retire in June of 2019. And it was tough financially. I had to slash $1,000 a month off of my expenses in order to do it. And so I started researching where are really cheap places to retire. And Portugal came up again and again as a list of very affordable places for expat retirees. So that put in my mind, I need to go check out Portugal. And from there, it just ballooned. Just, you're online, you're checking out, and then some ad pops up, and an ad popped up for Air Treks. And I thought, click, what is that all about? And we can give you these amazing tickets all around the world. You set your itinerary. So I plugged in Portugal, and then I lost my mind and had 6 months worth of travel. Then the price tag came back, No. So we slashed that way back. But it started with wanting to see Portugal. And that started with needing to retire to reset my life because of loss and just trying to process all of that and needing to do something totally different.
So you had never thought about doing a long-term trip before?
No, and definitely not by myself.
And you'd never thought of doing a solo trip before? And
No,
you ended up doing both. That's incredible.
no. I mean, we talked earlier that the night before I was to go, I had a major panic attack. It's like, what are you insane? Like, you cannot, my son would say, Mom, you're okay with directions as long as you don't have to turn right or left. So there you go. And I was like, you can't, what are you thinking? Like, you thought you were such a badass, but now it's time to do it. And you cannot do this. And I literally got on my computer and was researching how to cancel and get some of your money back. What will my insurance cover? What can I lie about that I'm really sick and can get still some cash back? I really did. The night before I was ready to go. And I had a shot of Jack Daniels, calm myself down, and thought, just all you have to do is get on the plane to Portugal. Don't think about the rest of it. Get there, because that's really where you want to eventually retire. And then once you're there, you can cancel everything else, but just get on the plane. And so telling myself that's all I had to do and giving myself an out for after I got there helped me calm down and put one foot forward. And then I didn't need to cancel it because I got there and I thought, oh, I can do this. And
Past it, right?
yes, I got past it. But that's a real thing though, for someone who's never done it and who's always been, a scaredy cat about everything. That was real.
Yeah, the scaredy cat business. You were telling me before, what has made you a scaredy cat. You've got to give a little bit of background there too.
Yes. So, I mean, growing up, we weren't allowed to go to sleepovers. And my mom was like, well, you can't go to someone else's house because their house might catch on fire. But, okay, yeah, that's a thing. So you kind of grow up thinking all of these catastrophic things might happen. But the good side of that is it prepares you. You think what's the worst that could happen and you prepare for it. So mentally that's empowering because you think, all right, I've planned, I have a plan B if something goes bad, and a C and a D. So that's the good part of that. But yeah, so that's my scaredy cat days. No sleepovers because the house might catch on fire. So there you go.
Yeah, that wasn't my life, but we didn't do sleepovers either. So what can I say? So you took this trip solo. You had traveled with other people before, and you took this trip solo. And what did you discover? Like, what was, and you had anxiety about going solo.
I did.
So, but what did you actually find about your, like, did you find it as difficult as you thought it might be? Did you find it more difficult? How did it go?
I discovered that I did have a little badass in me after all. I felt it was empowering. I realized I could get lost and be okay. And I did get lost, but it was okay. And I realized I could pivot if something wasn't going the way, if there was a change in plans, a tour was canceled or whatever, I could pivot. I had those plan A's and plan B's. I realized also how important it is to honor who you are. I am an introvert, which doesn't mean you're shy. I'm not at all shy. It's just where you get your energy. And so crowds drain my energy, and then I need to have some time alone just to regroup and recharge. And, in this world of Instagram and social media, I felt there's this pressure. Well, you have to go see this and this and this and this, and you need to take a picture with the floating breakfast tray and a ball gown behind you. And there's, got to see balloons. There's all this stuff you have to do. And I didn't. And I gave myself permission to be me and honor who I am. So if I wanted to, I'm going to spend the day on the beach, listening to the ocean, writing, and drinking some wine. And that's what I did. And I didn't, at first, I thought I'm wasting a day, but it's what I needed to do. And so that is awesome because I'm taking that learning into everything. I'm honoring who I am and what's working for me and being good with that.
I think that's absolutely wonderful because I too am an introvert. But I also get off on just sitting and watching the world go by
Yes.
and seeing how a culture operates and how people, you know, interact with their children or with each other. Or, you know, these things I enjoy, you know, as much as doing the, you know, things that one is
Yes.
supposed to do. So
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful. And honoring who you are, that's a really good way to frame it.
Yeah, yeah, it's important. And I think so often we don't. And I think as women, especially, we don't because there's so many other things that we're supposed to be taking care of. And we forget that we are the most important, not selfishly, but you know, self-love and self-care. We can't be there for other people if we don't take care of ourselves. So
Yeah, very true.
It's a really good point because often people will ask us about, you know, or they'll write to us and say that they're feeling really uncomfortable with the fact that they wanted to take a day off in the middle of their trip. And I think I used to conceive of it as, I used to think, oh, I'm so lazy. Why am I so lazy? But it's
yeah,
actually not that. It's
yeah,
exactly what you were saying, that you need time to regroup, or I need time to regroup in between. And
yeah,
sometimes that's when the most amazing travel things happen.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
I found that.
for sure. We're going to get into the practical details.
Okay.
Okay, the planning of the trip. So first off, did you have a budget in mind before, like when you were thinking of going to Portugal and then it expanded into the world? Did you have to kind of pull back a little bit and think, okay, I've got to see how much money I can really, like, realistically spend?
Yes. Yes. And when I retired, there was an incentive payment that was paid in segments. And so I thought, well, I can take this segment and this is what I can use to travel. So I had a budget. I will say my deciding to do this was a celebration, a reset. And I looked at it as a celebration of retiring and my upcoming 60th birthday. And so I splurged and I flew business class everywhere and in direct flights. So that was $9,000. And I did everything else for about 3,500, a little less. I mean, and everything else meaning my hotel and my food, my ground transportation. Yes. So, and this was in 2019. I went to look at the Airbnb I stayed at in Sesimbra, which was $30 a night. And I had the whole month. I had my first 30 days was in Sesimbra, Portugal. And it was it was $900. So $30 a night. I looked it up. It's like $2,600 now. So, I mean, everything is crazy now. I mean, the prices are insane.
Right.
The pandemic has really done a number on
Yeah.
so many in most industries. But it was $30. I left October 1st. I came back December 10th, 2019. And the riad I stayed in Marrakesh was $23 a night, and it included breakfast. And they picked me up from the airport. So, I mean, it was just incredible the things and I was able to find a little out of the way. And if I were to do it again, I might change a few things. Marrakesh, beautiful riad, but it was so out of the way that it got dark at 5:30 and it was just impossible for me to find my way back. So I ended up doing everything I wanted to do before dark. And then I really didn't leave the riad after dark.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it was,
Things that you learn along the
yeah,
way. Yeah.
exactly.
So if my math is correct, we're talking $12,500.
Yes.
And that includes that it was business
It
class.
was business class.
That's phenomenal.
Don't
Now,
you
you were
think?
also going on the off season.
Yes. So I left. That's huge. Yeah. October 1st.
Yeah.
That was great. That was great. 90% great. The only bad part is if you have tours and you're by yourself, they will cancel them because there's nobody else, So I had a lot of tours that were canceled, and then some I went ahead and did anyway, or I pivoted and I found another way to do it by befriending employees at whatever guest house or hotel, and then they kind of hooked me up. And that's when your intuition comes in, like, is this going to be a problem, or is this going to work? But it was great. I mean, it was really, I ended up making that work. But I did have probably 4 different tours canceled because there was no one else and I was by myself.
Days, I'd say that's not too bad, actually.
That's awesome, right? I think that's great. I think that's great. Yeah.
So you were heading for Portugal.
Yes.
Then how did you decide about your other destinations?
So on this airtrex.com, they have suggested itineraries, and you can just plug in different things and it'll show you, this is what it would cost you, business, first, coach, super economy. And I thought that's interesting. I'd always wanted to see Morocco, and that's close. I wanted to see Egypt, Thailand, Japan, and Indonesia. And I had originally typed in India, United Arab Emirates, South Africa, and then Australia and New Zealand. Like, well, I'll be there. And that was too much money. And I would have been, I think Australia, I would have been there in a rainy season. Like I looked at that. I didn't want to go somewhere where it was going to just be horrible weather. And had I done that, I would have been stranded, with COVID, with the pandemic coming in. So it worked out. But those were the countries that most spoke to me, that I had, thought would be the most interesting for me to see. So, wait, I'm not hearing you. What happened? Oh, it says muted. Are you muted, Janice? I can't hear you.
Okay. Oh, am I muted?
Yes, you were muted. Okay.
Tracy, sorry, someone is at the door. Could you please take over for 1 second?
Sure, no problem. And that's my fault because I sent her a package today and it's probably being delivered right now. So I just put the URL for the site that you mentioned into the chat in case anybody wanted to check that out. And also, Karen has a question.
Yes.
She says that in her experience of traveling solo on long trips, others worry about her or offer to come along. So she had to do a lot of polite uninviting. She wonders if that happened to you.
So I did not have to do any uninviting because everybody thought I was crazy. But I knew that my family would worry, so I did not tell them until like 2 weeks before. So I started planning in June for an October 1 departure, and I didn't tell anyone until like the middle of September, family, that I was going. So I told my brother because I needed to make arrangements so my mom could go stay with him and while I was going to be gone. But yeah, I didn't. So I took my mom out to lunch, like, Mom, let's go to lunch. And like over lunch, I told her, and kind of made it sound like it was part of a tour group. I lied.
Kind of.
So, because no, I mean, no sleepovers because the house is going to catch on fire. Can you imagine what I would get?
And how did she react?
So like, yeah. But it was great. But no, my friends all said, you should start an Instagram so we know you're not dead along the time and like post, because I I call myself a recovering social media avoider. I'm not on Facebook. I don't do any of that. And so I did start an Instagram and just would put pictures up, not even in real time. It's like, no, I'm not here right at this moment, but I'll put it up. And that was it. But no one offered to come with me. They were just like, okay, good luck.
That's so great. Are there other questions? Excuse me, are there other questions you want to put forth, Tracy, or shall I continue?
For now, you can keep going, but if anybody has any questions, just pop them in the chat and I will rudely interrupt them as they go along.
I would like to say, you said that you popped in the AirTrex URL. To do it again, I would just do it myself through Skyscanner, which I loved. And being the teacher and kind of control freak that I am, my representative AirTrex would do stuff, and then I would go back and double check on Skyscanner. And I actually called and said, I found this other flight here, you need to change. So I could do the exact same thing myself on Skyscanner, which makes it very easy to just, to type in and you can pick. But that was funny. I mean, I appreciated AirTrex, but I realized I could do, or you can do the same thing yourself, on Skyscanner. And it was I would double check all of AirTrek's work on Skyscanner anyway. So.
Well, that's smart. That's smart. I'll just mention though, Skyscanner is actually a tech company and they're not a booking company. So there's a difference when it comes to your actual booking.
Yes.
Personally, I use Skyscanner to do a lot of research, but I book on a flight network.
Oh, yes. Okay.
They're actually an agency that has the rights to books, and then therefore they are responsible. So
yes.
just a note, but Skyscanner as a resource is amazing.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So I want to ask you about the pacing of your trip, because when you're on a long trip, you do not, personally, I can't move as fast as if I'm on a 1 week, 2 week trip.
Yes.
So how did you figure out your pacing and what did you do around that?
And I think I did pretty well with it, except when the last trip in Japan I would totally redo that. But my first 30 days were Portugal because I wanted to see what it would be like to live there. And that's the only place where I did, an Airbnb apartment. So I was comfortable, being in Europe, and I thought I can manage. Everywhere else, I wanted to be somewhere where somebody could help me. Like, so there was a hotel manager or a guest services person, but someone there. But Sesimbra was where I ended up. I researched. It's 30 minutes south of Lisbon, and Lisbon was a 6-hour direct flight from New York. And from Lisbon to Sesimbra was easy peasy. And I had this amazing condo looking over the ocean. And I need to live on the ocean, but I don't want to deal with hurricanes. So there are no hurricanes. There's not been a recorded one that I can find off the coast of Portugal. And the weather is temperate. I'm not one for tropical climates. I don't want snakes and bugs this big and monkeys climbing in my window. That's not me. So, but Portugal was fabulous. I love the climate and it's easy to get to and it's super cheap. So I wanted to see what it would be like living in, an apartment, a condo rental for that long. And that was awesome. And I got a little spoiled. And then after that, I had 40 more days in 5 countries. So it was about 8 days per country. Except by the time I got to Japan, there had been some flight delays and I ended up having only 6 days, and trying to do 3 cities in 6 days was insane because there's a day that was just getting, from point A to point B. And I was super stressed and I found myself stressing, looking ahead to the logistics of getting to point B and not being able to really enjoy where I was. So I would totally redo that. But the other, about a week in the other countries was good because I didn't go all over. I mean, I picked, I went to Marrakesh and then some day trips. I stayed in Giza. If I did it again, I would stay in Cairo in Egypt and then do trips to Giza. But I stayed in Giza overlooking the pyramids. It was very affordable, included breakfast and airport pickup. I stayed in Bangkok, and you could do 70 days just in Thailand. It was so amazing. So I knew to pick a city and plan a few day trips rather than really picking up every day or two and moving to different cities and locales within a country. I knew better to try and do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's called a hub and spoke design.
Thank you.
There you
Okay.
go. So yeah, so that you're settled, but you
Yeah.
keep on going out and going from there, and therefore you're not packing and moving, and
Yes.
which can be very unsettling if you're doing it too often.
It's unsettling and it's tiring.
Yeah.
I took one carry-on bag for 70 days. I got everything in there, but it was heavy. And there's a titanium screw in my shoulder from where I had to have my bicep reattached. And by the end of the 70 days, that screw was like, okay, girl, it's like, time's up. And it was very tiring. There are a lot of steps. I mean, a lot of the airports, you're up and down steps. And I hadn't anticipated that. I hadn't anticipated not having access or easy access to an elevator or escalator, but there were a lot of steps.
Yeah,
And that was hard.
interesting. Because that might suggest that it would have been good to have a backpack of about the same size, right? So that your hands are free.
Yes.
And you're carrying, the weight is being distributed.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And even, I flew business class. So I was like, excuse me, could you please put this up there for me? It was hard to even lift it over my head into the overhead bins. After a while, it was tiring. So I could have made it lighter, but I was prepared for all kinds of things, but everything fit. So yeah.
That's good. And in the end, did you meet your budget? Did you
I
go
did.
over budget?
Well, I wanted to keep it at 12. It was 12.5, but I used, and I think I got this from your site because this is how I found you. So I had a VPN because of you. I got an international SIM card, and I ended up getting a credit card that had these amazing, they waived the annual fee for the first year, and they offered 100,000 points. Now, they weren't mileage points, but those 100,000 points equaled $1,000, which you could apply to your statement for all travel related. So it was 12.5 minus 1,000. So it was 11.5.
That's amazing.
Isn't that awesome? I know you couldn't do it now because COVID has changed pricing of everything, but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But it really speaks to, a little bit of ingenuity and patience and adjusting your itinerary, the destinations according to what would actually work with your budget. There are many ways of making a budget work.
Yes. I also loved I used Airbnb for the apartment, the condo for 30 days. I ended up using booking.com a lot because I could, filter. I could put, this is the money I want to spend, and I want free cancellation in case something happens. And I found so many great places.
It's the booking engine that we promote as well, that we encourage people to use, because it actually, the research that I've done says that they have a larger pool of lower priced options than other sites. It's actually quite good for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Travel insurance, that's the other thing I got from you as well. So yeah. You helped me do this.
Oh, I'm so glad. That's so great.
So I have a couple of questions.
Okay, go for it, Tracy.
To ask. Some of them have been answered along the way. But first of all, what was the weight of your baggage? Do you know?
it fit. So I don't know, because I don't have a scale. I have a weight scale, and I would try and like hold it and then subtract my weight. Like, no, that's not right, because I know I don't weigh that. So that's bull. But anyway, so I don't know, but it never was flagged. It fit in all the things. It never triggered any weight over
Okay.
limit, but it felt like it was 1,000,000 pounds by the end, but it was not.
And Lorraine is asking, how did you travel within cities?
So I did a lot of walking, but then I also would use taxis, and I used Uber. I learned in many places the taxis will cheat you. I would say I don't ever get in until you get a price. So I would say, here's where I'm going, and you use Google Translate. Many of them speak English, and I would get a price. And I became very bold in bargaining or arguing. Let's say bargaining, but I would say, no, I'm not paying that. And also, when I would get in, I would also make sure I turned up very loud the volume on my phone for Google Maps navigation. And so the woman, or whoever your voice is, tells you, turn left, turn, and I would turn it up really loud. So like, I know how to get there. And like, I don't even think about going straight, because we're turning left. And, that actually was helpful. I was in Bangkok, and the guy was, and you also make sure you tell them no stops, because they will, well, I'll do it for whatever, but they want to stop at a tourist place, a souvenir place, and they might get a little kickback or whatever. And so he's like, no stops. I'm like, here to here, no stops. How much? No, I'll do it for this. And then get in and have the navigation voice loudly, volume up all the way. And then one guy laughed. He goes, okay, left. Yep, yes, left. That's where we're going.
That's really smart. I'd never thought of that. But I haven't, since Uber came along, I've almost never taken a taxi, because especially when I'm traveling, because you have that, because the route is mapped out for them. And if they deviate from it, somebody knows. So
Uber, so Portugal, Uber was everywhere. Not really Uber that I found at all in Morocco. In Egypt, I had read where Uber's frowned on, and I was even told by the hotel manager, if you take a private driver or an Uber, you'll need to sit in the front like your friends, and not in the back, because they will get in trouble.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question. I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, because it could be different in Canada, between Canada and the US. But Lorraine was asking whether you could actually live in somewhere like Portugal, or whether you have to go back to your home country periodically in order to keep pensions and that sort of thing.
Yes, so you do, and I really need to do more research. And Portugal had a great pensioners program, the Golden Pensioners Program. They changed it in April of 2020. So I'm not completely well versed. I'm not versed at all in the requirements now, but like every 90 days, you just have to leave and come back. I could leave and go to France and then come back, but you have to leave. But there are companies that will help you work around that and with the legal advice. So I'm hoping that my goal is by the time I am 63, which is 2023, to be ready to move. And then from there, everything's so much cheaper. Greece is on my list. The TAP, the airline of Portugal, was great, and it's cheaper. So I'm looking forward to more solo trips, but I want to move to Portugal first. So
sounds great.
Yeah.
I think that's all the questions for the moment.
Okay. So we've kind of covered the practical stuff. So now I just want to get is there one country that really stood out for you on the trip, other than Portugal?
Oh, shoot. Okay. Oh, so other than Portugal, gosh, yes, and for different reasons. Can I just pick one favorite? I loved Bangkok. I really did. I had a very funny story there. A friend of mine here knew a gentleman from Malaysia, and he and his partner were going to be in Bangkok at the same time. And she connected us, and we decided to, the three of us, well, let's meet one evening. And they picked a place. It was called Tots of Thailand, Tots, Tots of Thailand. And like, oh, that's interesting. It's a gin bar. And like, and I stayed in Chinatown at the Burasi W22, which is so cheap and perfect. And it was walking distance. And one of my safety things was don't go out at night and not drinking. I thought, well, I'm going out, these two guys, and well, and it's close, so we'll go. And I didn't have time to eat. And I thought, well, I'll just eat there. It's a gin bar. They have gin. So I get there, I'm like, do you have a bar menu? And they brought a bowl of something that looked like acorns. Like, do you have a sandwich or something? Yeah. No, nothing, like street food. And I should have, like, can I go get some food? Because it's so delicious, wonderful food. But I didn't, it was just poor planning on my part. And so, but this place was on TripAdvisor, and like everyone knew, and you had to know it was there. There's just a little sign in this little alley. It was awesome. I had the best night of just laughing and getting to know these two people, our common friend. It was wonderful. And there's a picture I posted afterwards. We were wasted out of our minds. I had no food. We had drink, gin, and we're, yeah, it's like so great. It's just the best time ever. We'll keep in touch when I come to Malaysia. And I love that picture because it was just so much joy and freedom. And like, I have done it. I am here by myself. I've met people I've never known before. I spent hours in a bar drinking gin, which was stupid. And I made it back to my hotel and nothing happened. But that's one of my favorite stories, my favorite ones. And it's my favorite picture in my book of photos, because it was just total joy and comfort. And I am in Thailand and I am just making this awesome. So
That's so incredible. And they weren't local either, though.
no, they're from Malaysia, but they had traveled there before.
Right. So they found a spot for you and all that.
Yes. My other story is with a little girl, and she inspired me. In Egypt, I met their family. They invited me to join them for a tour of the pyramids. And her name was May, and she's Egyptian, but living in the States. And they were there visiting her uncle, who's a teacher in Cairo, who I met. And she found that I was a teacher, a retired teacher. She goes, well, how many languages do you speak? And I thought, well, I'm really only fluent in one. I wish I had a YouTube video of her face. What? I mean, it was like, shade from a 5-year-old. She's like, what? I speak English, Arabic, French, and I'm learning Greek. And I thought, you know what? I am going to go back and I'm going to get on Duolingo and I am going to learn Portuguese because of you. And I love that little girl. She had so much spunk. I'm telling you, she's going to be running some company somewhere one of these days. But that is just the love of children who will just tell you like it is all over the world. That's how kids are. Yeah. And she was awesome. I spent the day with her, and I'm taking Portuguese lessons.
Isn't that amazing? Like, people can say things, throwaway lines, right? Anywhere in the world, and it can come home with you and it can change you.
Yes.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah.
That's so wonderful. Wow. So it's going to be hard. This is a hard question, but what was the best thing about your trip?
So many wonderful things, externally. I am going to pick the internal thing, which was me discovering that it is okay to give myself permission to honor who I am and to travel my way. And if I need a break and I'm not going to join the maddening crowds force and stand in line to see something, and instead I'm going to spend my afternoon sipping wine and writing in my journal on the beach, listening to the waves, that's okay. That's not a wasted day. So that was huge for me. Just silencing that negative, that self-critical voice, like, you know what, I can do this my way. I can do what's right for me. And that lesson, that discovery, that permission, that self-permission has really informed everything I've done since then. And it's been 2 years.
So it's come home with you.
It's come home with me, and it has changed how I've done everything.
Wow. That's pretty great.
Yeah. I'm learning how to make bourbon at a distillery now. So like, yeah, that sounds, I call it my blackboard to bourbon journey. Like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm a 61-year-old intern. Yeah. That's fine. I'm going to do it. And I wouldn't have before because I don't know. It sounds crazy, right? But I love it. It's fun.
And if you had, like, in terms of if other people are kind of thinking, oh, I really want to do this, right? Do you have like one piece of advice you would say and suggest for how they would go about it, or what to consider?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is just take one baby step. Put one foot in front of the other. So obviously I planned 70 days that, wasn't baby step, but the night before I left, I panicked and almost didn't go. And telling myself just the one step is get on the plane to Portugal. And if you can get yourself to take that first baby step, and then it's just a matter of another step and another step and another step. Just being able to take that one step. And I think I told you before we went live, it's like I have no book, no background, no business in travel. I'm just your run-of-the-mill scaredy cat and retired teacher who wanted to, process loss and do something different. And this is not something I ever thought that I would do. And it started with, just get on the plane to Portugal.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I like about that advice as well is that it really speaks to the layering that happens as you travel, right? You go to one place and you get this experience and you overcome a challenge, or you work your way around this, you figure out, how to control an Uber, whatever it is, right? But it becomes a layer of the foundation for the next step.
Yes. Yes. So, beautifully put. Yep. Just a layer. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
I have a couple of questions. But before I get to the questions, I would just like to say that I think that is excellent advice for life. A day of drinking wine and sitting on the beach is never a wasted day.
And this is the beach behind me. This is a picture I took, and that's the beach of wine. And yeah, it's gorgeous. That's Sesimbra. Can you see? Yay.
Well, and on that subject of Sesimbra, Rose is asking, when you go back to Portugal to live, are you going back to the same place, or are you going somewhere else? And how are you going to look for the place that you will live?
So I hope to go right back to Sesimbra. The Algarve always comes up, and it's getting a little expensive because it's very popular, especially with Brits. And Sesimbra is not as crowded. It's an old fishing village, and it's very quiet. I mean, I got there October 1 and it was still hot, but by October 15, everybody was gone. So it's quiet. A lot of the shops close up. And then there are your, diehard, your fishermen families. It's not as diverse. Lisbon's very diverse. And so I'm not sure how that would go. I just know I can hop on a bus and in 30 minutes be in Lisbon. So that'll be okay. But I hope there. I met a woman living in the apartment building, the condo building that I stayed in, and she had a little vegan restaurant and we became friends. She's like, you come back, you can work for me. I'm like, done. Yes, I will. And she gave me the name of an agent. And I'm also subscribed to, I think it's idealista.com. And they send me regular emails of properties that are available. I think I'm going to rent, but they send me homes to buy and then also rent. And yeah, and that keeps me going. It's also good practice. I get it in English, but I also get it in Portuguese. So it's good practice to try and read it. And I think I can say this right. Eu leio português melhor do que eu falo português. I read Portuguese better than I speak Portuguese. I either said that or I said I have a Portuguese lion in my house. But I meant to say that I'm much better at reading than I am speaking.
Okay. Karen asks if you have any fun stories of locals helping you during your travels.
I do. And all people are wonderful. I mean, they really are. And, from helping me take a selfie, preventing me from taking a bad selfie by saying, here, let me, and by the way, do you still have your money pouch clipped to your bikini top? Did you mean to have that in the picture? So those little things of getting a picture right. To Regina, the woman I met in December when I arrived at the restaurant, it was closed. And she reopened the kitchen and cooked me dinner herself, which was my first or second day. I just met her, and which was so kind. She didn't know I was living in her building. We figured that out later. Another also in December is a Russian woman, Natasha, which is Natalie in Russian. And I kind of thought she didn't like me, and she just seemed harsh. And I will say, as a traveler of color, maybe it's out on the radar of you deal with microaggressions all the time. So you kind of wonder, is this a race thing? Or are you just naturally kind of grouchy? Or just, what is this? As a foreigner, you don't know. And she was not friendly, but I ran into her in the building. And I was trying to find the grocery store, Mini Presto. And she gave me the little tag for getting discounts. You have, most grocery stores have the little, special shopper card, and only if a card holder gets it. She gave me one. And then she walked me to the store. You could have blown me, you could have knocked me over with a feather. I mean, this woman, and she's, she hair all done and heels and this little fit and flare, black check dress. And wow, she's really dressed up. I wonder where she's going. And she walked me, and it's hilly. And I could barely walk in flat shoes. And she has on these heels and these cobblestones, and she's just click, 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 click. And I posted it on Instagram to like, this is Natasha. This is me trying to keep up with Natasha. And I've got on tennis shoes, and she's like, there it is. And here's your card, and goodbye. So not friendly, but so helpful. I mean, who does that? That was crazy. That was so wonderful. In Marrakesh, an employee at the Riyadh, he knew that I was just hopeless with directions. And there was a restaurant he told me I should try for lunch because I wouldn't go out at night. Because it was just too hard to find, to get back. I couldn't find my way. And I said, all right, I can find it. And he laughed. He's like, no, not you. No. I mean, no, not you. And he closed up and he also walked me. And we get there, and then I asked him, which, I need an ATM. And he said, no. And he reached into his pocket and he gave me his own money. And I said, no. And he goes, later, give it to me later. I mean, that was totally unexpected. Totally unexpected. Also in Morocco, in Marrakesh, did a day trip to the Atlas Mountains. And the guide was wonderful. I'm afraid of heights. And they didn't really say that it was 4 hours up. And I got halfway and I sat down. I thought, I'm going to wait here till you guys come back. I mean, I am like feeling anxiety. I can't do it. And he said, we're not coming back down this way. And I could feel like tears coming from my eyes, like, oh no, I mean, we're just halfway. I'm like, oh no, I can't. Oh no. And he goes, be optimistic. And which kind of pissed me off a little bit, but I was like, okay. Like, easy for you to say. And he literally held my hand all the way up. He goes, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. It was rocky. And to anyone else who wasn't a total scaredy cat, it was not a hard thing. But, it's narrow trails and rocky, and, you're sharing it with donkeys and sheep and goats, and you're just going to move, and then you go on. And we hiked up 4 hours. That was a lot to me. I was the oldest person there, and I'm like, you go ahead. And so go, I'm not trying to win a race, but it was fabulous. And he held my hand. We got all the way up. We had dinner or a late lunch and with a Berber family. And then we went back down another way. Down was worse. I'm glad you didn't tell me. That was worse. But he held my hand the entire, and going down too, oh, come, or my arm or whatever. It's like, oh, come. And I thought that was so wonderful. That was so wonderful. We're still in contact, and he's just awesome. That's another one that's one of my favorite.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And we got back, it was night. It was dark. That was a long day, but
Yeah.
he was so friendly, just fabulous.
Yeah. We're just about out of time. So while Janice is wrapping up, can I just ask everyone to type in the chat? So we're doing a giveaway tonight. And so while we're doing the end, the way that we're going to do this is everybody can enter.
And what's the giveaway, Tracy?
Well, the giveaway. I suppose that would be a good thing to know. The prize is a Lonely Planet membership for 1 year, which will give you access to the Lonely Planet Guides app and Lonely Planet TV and different discounts and things from their partners during the course of the year. And the way that we're going to do the draw is that before you joined us, I asked Natalie to give me a number between 1 and 100. So if everyone can plop in a number between 1 and 100 into the chat, the one that comes closest or hits it, I will let you know at the end, and I will hand it back to you, Janice.
People are already got their numbers in there. Natalie, I think really what we need next is just tell people, how they can follow you and what.
Great. Thank you. So the recovering social media avoider that I am on Instagram at retired_rewired_inspired. And I have a blog, thehotgoddess.com. As I said, the hot flashes of midlife. And it's all about stories of transformation and giving yourself permission to reinvent midlife and be happy.
That sounds
It's
great.
thehotgoddess.com. Yeah.
And we'll put that in the notes when we send out the video of this chat, which has been absolutely wonderful. Tracy, do we have a winner?
Well, there's still maybe a few coming in. So just while we're waiting for a second, I'll maybe just let people know what we have coming up next. So later this month, on the 29th, we have our monthly meetup. And our topic this month is food I have loved. So we're going to share stories of the interesting, the delicious, the not so delicious, maybe unusual food and drink experiences that we've had during our travels. And so we will talk about what we liked and what we didn't like and what we adopted later at home. And then our speaker next month, which will be on the 13th of October, will be Patrick Wallace. And he is going to talk to us about magical moments that can that only ecotourism can offer. So that's going to be, I think, a really interesting one too. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. The winner of the Lonely Planet membership is Karen, who chose 88. And the number that Natalie gave me was 87.
87. I saw it right away. I was like, oh my gosh. This is my someone typed in, what's her Instagram again? It's Retired, Rewired, Inspired.
I just put it in the chat.
Oh, great. Okay.
There. So that's great.
Congratulations, Karen.
So Karen, we'll get in touch with you separately and get that prize to you.
Natalie, thank you so much. What a pleasure, what a joy hearing about your trip. It's just, it was just good fun and also good information. So it was perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure and honor. Awesome. You can do it, guys, girls, ladies, everybody, people.
Everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Thanks everyone for attending. We really appreciate it.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks so much, Natalie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.